Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with a recap on what happened in this 23 Dragons video or the game, because obviously we didn't get to fully see it for ourselves, right? I showed you this knight combination. You were probably thinking, what the heck happened, right? You were like, I didn't get what National Master Kevin Yang said. It was all confusing, right? And yes, it was, because here's the thing. Let's kind of look at the game from a whole, right? So you could see that when I put my queen out, I had confidence. I was thinking maybe go here, maybe play e3 and bishop c4. I had the ideas, right? So here I played e4, and I was very satisfied at this point, just saying I'm going to play h5. And if you play h6, I'm going to get my knight out, put it on an ideal square f4. So this idea is as a result of this imagination to say, okay, where does my knight on g1 belong, right? Because that's one important thing. You want to know where your pieces are going to do the best or perform the best, right? Like, for example, you are the owner of a company and you want to survey your people and you tell them, what is the best place for you to work, right? What is your comfortable life, day in the life, right? What do you do? Do you need a gym to sit next to? Do you need like a massage place to be next to? What do you need to be, right? So in chess it's more simple than that. It's more of like finding the right place for the knight to be, right? So essentially, each piece has a place on the board. And so this knight, at this moment, belongs on f4 because it targets the bishop. I play bishop to c4, and actually I shouldn't have played bishop to c4. I should have played takes and then bishop c4. Now here's why. Because if black does the same thing here, I can now say I'm going to castle queenside. And if black tries to play knight a5, white has the move rook, doesn't matter which rook e1 check. Right after something like bishop e7, what happens? Bishop takes f7. So what else happens? King da, queen a3, and it gets all jumbly. But at the end of the day, there's pressure here, there's threats of doubling on the e-file, and these knights, they're more dominant, especially knowing that this bishop it's going to take a while to come out, right? So that's part of the judgmental process. So after f5, I knew that this knight on f4 would belong, except the timing of bishop c4 was actually a little bit off, because after queen d7, I try the same thing here, but now there's knight to a5, and all of a sudden, if you play queen a3, the same thing again, then there's a6. Now, for a moment, I was thinking about d5, but after d5 and this discovery, white just plays queen takes a7. So essentially, black has to play a6, and after still, black threatens d5, so after knight e3, f takes e4, and now, who do you see has more pawns, right? So now, white is down a pawn, and it's not looking as great as before. So that's why I say, the timing of bishop c4 was a little bit off. But in the game, I sort of thought, like, let's put all the threats out there, and then we'll see what happens. So after queen d7, I said, I cannot let this knight come here. So I played bishop to b5, and here's the reason why I took an f5. I said I don't want this pawn to be a burden for me, right? Like If I castle, then take on e4. I could have also considered playing e5, but I did not consider it. E takes f5, bishop takes f5, and especially with the fact with rook a to e1, I sense something. I sense that, okay, the king cannot castle because the rook will take the bishop. So the king has to move over one square. Perfect play by 23 Dragons. So what do I do here? Oh, I could play g3, but after g3 I was a little bit worried about g5. So I played knight f3 instead. g5 came, and here let me tell you my thought process. So at this moment I was how do you say? I was shaken. I was obviously shaken because we were somewhat low on time. I believe I was low on time, and here I said rook takes e7. Now, I also considered h takes g5, and after h takes g5, I considered rook takes e7. Because once this happens, like I said in the previous video, there's pressure on f7, and sometimes pressure leads to mistakes. So what did I think was going to happen after h takes g5? Well, I thought bishop takes g5 was going to happen. And after bishop takes g5, um, I don't remember. I remember something like if I play knight takes g5, h takes g5, knight d5, and bishop e6. What was I going to do? I was going to sack. I don't know. F takes e6, knight f6, and all of a sudden this pawn, you could play d5, but there's rook e1, and if white swings the knight over to e5, then there's probably enough compensation. So what happens instead is in the game, rook takes e7, but now rook h7, and here I was confused. I was like, what? You didn't take my rook? So then I was like, okay, thank you then. So then I played knight d5. I said, I'm going to protect my rook, and if you play bishop e6, I'm going to take. So after bishop e6, I take knight f6, and now queen is coming to e6, knight is coming to rook. So what happens? Rook f7. But after rook e7, you might think, okay, well, I can't do this anymore, but what can I do? Instead, I can either take here, I can reroute, or I can play the move d5, and all those options are decisive. But in the game, rook f7 happened, I took, and took. And here, this is why I won. I mean, I took a risk. And you can see that in this position, right after this bishop knight trade, you can see the momentum shifting from white, who had all the threats at the start of the game, to black. And that was just because I timed the move bishop c4 wrong, right? So now, at this moment, there's a pawn hanging. I could play bishop d3, but I wasn't sure because after bishop d3, takes e4, takes e4, and then I was like, I don't know if I like this, right? They're in a line, and it's okay, but I just wasn't sure. So I was looking for another way out. And so obviously this sacrifice, it gave me the momentum back, and this game was sort of a turn of momentum. Rook h7 gave me more confidence, and that is how I won. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you do, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and like, comment, do whatever you want. But the most important thing is have fun, discover your curiosity, and I'll see you next time.